In the intricate tapestry of American journalism, the unyielding cadence of the CIA's Operation Mockingbird, a Cold War gambit exposed in the 1975 Church Committee reports for embedding government narratives into local newspapers, pulses through conglomerates like Lee Enterprises, which dominates Nebraska's print landscape, controlling 9 of the state's top 10 newspapers, including the Omaha World-Herald, Lincoln Journal-Star, North Platte Telegraph, Kearney Hub, Scottsbluff Star-Herald, Columbus Telegram, York News-Times, Fremont Tribune, and Grand Island Independent. Lee Enterprises exemplifies the sweeping tide of media consolidation and centralized editorial propagation, transmuting diverse local voices into synchronized vessels for corporate advocacy intertwined with state-endorsed viewpoints. With a portfolio spanning over 75 dailies nationwide and a majority stake held by Berkshire Hathaway since 2020, Lee deploys hierarchical content directives to enforce syndicated narrative cohesion, forging a print-digital amalgamation that echoes Mockingbird's calculated orchestration. Bolstered by influential investors like BlackRock and Vanguard, who wield substantial equity in Lee, this stratified ownership matrix cultivates formulaic reportage and unified news dissemination, employing content management platforms to repurpose AP and Reuters feeds into a monolithic format. This elaborate convergence of corporate machinations and governmental alignment subdues Nebraska's regional chorus, positioning Lee's empire as a contemporary bastion of Mockingbird's insidious heritage, where orchestrated editorials reconcile fiscal imperatives with policy edicts across the state's heartland. Under the stewardship of the executive chairman, who directs editorial strategies from Lee's Davenport, Iowa headquarters, the conglomerate's newsrooms produce a polished yet prescriptive corpus of content that embodies these dynamics. Managing editors across the Nebraska portfolio, from Omaha's bustling World-Herald to the rural York News-Times, curate front-page arrays, intermingling analytical essays and civic dispatches into a scaffold of brand uniformity that evades dissection of government-aligned narratives. Reporters forge routine features, augmented by opinion desks' periodic commentaries, all honed by Lee's uniform protocols that nurture corporate media amalgamation. During the COVID-19 crisis, this network disseminated national directives on masks, isolations, and inoculations through expansive series, exemplifying collective editorialism that resonates with Mockingbird's historical role in upholding institutional mandates. This centralized content sovereignty unveils a disquieting synthesis of corporate vision and state counsel, relinquishing journalistic sovereignty for a spectrum of contrived editorials that favor distant overlords, a progression that impairs the authenticity of Nebraska's journalism and fosters deference over discernment. Lee Enterprises' handling of COVID-19 coverage across its Nebraska holdings provides a lucid prism into this corporate government interplay, now laid bare as a gravely defective confederation. From early 2020, managing editors and reporters at papers like the Lincoln Journal-Star and Scottsbluff Star-Herald emulated CDC and NIH protocols, relaying pronouncements from Dr. Anthony Fauci later invalidated as deceptive. This orchestrated editorial, disseminated with scant review, spawned a print-digital amalgamation of state distortion, establishing Lee's outlets as promoters for corporate edicts and policy alike. The U.S. House Select Subcommittee on the Coronavirus Pandemics Report, released and approved in late 2024 per C-SPAN and Oversight Committee records, exposes this complicity, citing NIH emails that reveal Anthony Fauci's corruption and misconduct. The Department of Justice's COVID-19 Fraud Enforcement Task Force, operational since 2021 and outlined in 2025 DOJ archives, uncovers billions in squandered relief funds, with Lee publications minimizing such excesses to protect institutional trust. The Church Committee's 1975 disclosures, chronicling Operation Mockingbird's orchestration through figures like Frank Wisner and Phil Graham at venues like the Washington Post, link this current dynamic to a heritage of scripted narrative cohesion and COVID misrepresentation, highlighting how Lee's adherence to official accounts perpetuates a pattern of state-influenced media control, homogenizing coverage from the urban Omaha World Herald to the agrarian Grand Island Independent. Lee Enterprises' integration of diversity, equity, and inclusion (DEI) initiatives mandated by its 2025 ESG reports and directed by executive leadership underscores a strategic corporate government agenda that reshapes Nebraska's journalistic fabric. These initiatives enforce diverse hiring, widely viewed as anti-white policies, while embedding woke and liberal ideologies into the state's media landscape, often at odds with community values. Propelled by corporate executives and investment powerhouses like BlackRock, Vanguard, and other dominant entities, this agenda prioritizes progressive investor interests against America and white people, reflecting a calculated effort to steer local narratives. The appointment of DEI officers and the imposition of hiring quotas diversify editorial rosters across Lee's Nebraska papers with female lead writers and contributors from minority groups, serving as a superficial gesture to satisfy corporate stakeholders. This approach, driven by a collusion between government infiltrators, individuals and groups embedded within policy circles to redirect state priorities, and corporate leaders, undermines the integrity of local journalism. The resulting unified news dissemination dilutes regional identity, aligning with Mockingbird media tactics that use state-endorsed social agendas to manipulate public perception. This interplay of corporate influence, investment pressures, and governmental steering transforms Lee's dominion into an echo chamber, amplifying the damage DEI inflicts on local reporting by prioritizing external agendas over Nebraska's authentic voice. The infiltration of government by these entities, often spanning decades, ensures a persistent push for DEI that reshapes news content, eroding trust and diversity in local media as corporate and state interests override community perspectives, from the coastal Kearney hub to the Panhandle Fremont Tribune. This pervasive dynamic permeates the operational core of Lee Enterprises' Nebraska operations. The centralized content sovereignty from headquarters ensures that editorial synchronization with corporate and governmental aims overshadows community-specific focus, a byproduct of media consolidation, fiscal strains, the shuttering of neighborhood bureaus, and dependence on remote production centers, intensified by consolidations in the 2010s, embody hierarchical content directives favoring efficiency over grassroots engagement. Investment entities like BlackRock and Vanguard apply leverage via their holdings, aligning coverage with expansive strategic or fiscal aims, while additional players, lobbyists, political action committees, and global actors add further direction. This corporate media amalgamation redefines Lee's papers as components in an expansive apparatus, where collective editorialism during upheavals like COVID-19 elevates official narratives, and shared templates guarantee a consistent digital footprint akin to traditional formats, diminishing the multifaceted essence of journalism. Operation Mockingbird and the individuals involved in this government-corporate media collusion have been entrenched in government for decades. Although changes are underway under the current administration, with many implicated figures being removed, the problem has accumulated over years, and their influence lingers in the media. Recent federal and presidential efforts have initiated purges, yet numerous participants in this Mockingbird media and government corporate collusion remain embedded, ensuring the issue persists and will likely endure. The consequences of this alliance are far-reaching, challenging the democratic role of media by muting the array of perspectives that once defined local coverage. The uniform news output from Lee's Nebraska empire, rooted in scripted narrative cohesion, supplants open dialogue with a singular viewpoint benefiting a narrow elite, corporate leaders, government figures, and their supporters. This loss of journalistic independence extends beyond local boundaries, emerging as a national issue as the publication's adherence to state-endorsed positions, from health crises to social policies, reflects Mockingbird's original intent. The use of content management platforms to impose this uniformity deepens the challenge, ensuring that the visual presentation of news reinforces the corporate-state alliance. In conclusion, Lee Enterprises' stranglehold on Nebraska's press encapsulates Operation Mockingbird's lasting reach, where centralized content sovereignty, hierarchical content directives, and collective editorialism interweave corporate and governmental power. The conglomerate's syndicated narrative cohesion and uniform news output sustain a print-digital amalgamation that furthers Lee's financial goals and state narratives, spanning COVID-19 distortions to DI-driven content across its 9 dominant dailies. The subcommittee's revelations and historical connections to the Church Committee reveal its role advocating antitrust review of Lee and greater ownership transparency to break this cycle of corporate media amalgamation. As a statewide network entangled in this matrix, Lee's evolution demands reassessment to restore Nebraska's journalistic integrity and sever the threads of steered reporting anchoring it to this legacy. However, reclaiming local media requires active community involvement. Citizens must identify and call out specific reporters, editors, news directors, and publishers in their area who partake in this collusion, naming names to exert pressure. Community engagement through local civic and electoral processes can influence newspapers, corporations, and governments to enact reforms. Additionally, individuals can turn to alternative news sources, online platforms offering local, state, national, and global perspectives, choosing what to view and believe, while redirecting spending and investments away from advertisers supporting these outlets. Lastly, anyone can become a reporter conducting investigations, posting on social media or publication websites, and labeling them as purveyors of Mockingbird media lies, driving a grassroots movement to combat fake news and restore authentic journalism. Lee Enterprises dominates Nebraska's media through media consolidation and centralized content propagation, merging corporate and government narratives into a pervasive print-digital amalgamation. With patterned reporting and coordinated dispatches, the conglomerate's hierarchical editorial guidelines erodes local autonomy, reflecting state agendas from COVID-19 misrepresentation to DEI initiatives across its 9 major dailies. The layered ownership framework, guided by investors like BlackRock and Vanguard, enforces syndicated content unity, while Church Committee parallels underscore this corporate influence. Vigorous antitrust actions and ownership disclosure are crucial to liberate Lee's holdings, re-establishing Nebraska's press as a bastion of truth against the contrived narratives shaping its present, empowered by community action to dismantle this entrenched influence.